Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
Some schools in the Denver area are canceled today, and others will likely have a lot of subs as teachers join in the national call to protest federal immigration policies. Aurora and Adams 14 are among the districts where all classes are canceled. Opponents of the crackdown in Minneapolis called for the nationwide no school, no work, and no shopping effort. A number of metro area restaurants and cafes are also participating today, and protests are planned around Denver. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel. Coming up, Colorado's political temperature is heating up.
You support genocide! You help bomb kids!
And for members of Congress, that means the job is getting tougher, riskier, and more expensive. Then, Democrats in the legislature just voted to add 800 new beds in state prisons without a plan to reduce the number of inmates.
If we don't improve these beds, it's going to cost us more money.
Plus, half of Colorado's students are kids of color, but nearly all their teachers are white. That got one class thinking, does it matter? And what could we do to change it?
I have only had like 2 or 3 that are my same race, but I think they've always understood where I'm coming from because they also have that same background that I came from.
It's Friday, January 30th. Here's the news in Colorado today. The political climate right now is intense, and for Colorado's elected officials, that's making it harder, more expensive, and potentially more dangerous to do their jobs. Here's Bozzy.
Just this week, CPR journalists witnessed the type of disruptive anger that 2 Congress members came up against when interacting with constituents in Denver. Here's what happened on Sunday when Senator Michael Bennet showed up at an anti-ICE rally at the state capitol. Denverite's Kevin Beatty was there.
And while I'm walking around there, I see Bennet, who's shaking hands with people who at first are saying grateful that he was there, saying thank you for being here. And then this guy kind of came out and he was like,
You support genocide! You help bomb kids!
That man pushed his way right into Bennett's face, yelling and giving him the finger. He opposed Bennett's vote on funding for Israel.
And it was just like this one guy, and the people in the crowd were trying to hold him back. But then, as he kept yelling, more people kind of joined his cause.
He supports the genocide!
And I would say, within 15 minutes of this guy starting to do this, Bennett had a small crowd of people who were yelling at him to leave, and he was sort of trying to do his best to brush it off and not acknowledge the people around him while his supporters and staff were trying to hold people back. But it was clear that he couldn't escape this, and he just left.
Get the f*** out of here!
Now, you might expect passions to run high at an outdoor protest like that, but the next day, this happened when Representative Diana DeGette tried to speak at a sparsely attended Denver City Council committee meeting.
Abolish ICE. It's a fascist organization. Let me hear your words. Can you say abolish ICE?
Excuse me.
Hecklers interrupted DeGette at least twice. CPR's Caitlin Kim later spoke with her and other members of Colorado's congressional delegation about what they face in public. Caitlin, it's extremely uncomfortable to watch these heckling situations, let alone to be on the receiving end of it. How are our officials managing this?
Yes, uncomfortable and loud, and it can feel scary, especially when, protesters get right in a politician's, face. This is happening more often these days at public events, mainly to Democrats, because Republicans in Colorado's congressional delegation aren't usually seen at public venues like this.
It's important for everybody to try to take down the tensions.
That is Representative DeGette explaining how she tries to deal with protesters.
What I did yesterday is I simply told the protesters that they had a right to express themselves, but that we were trying to conduct a meeting, and I would meet with them afterwards.
She did take a few moments to speak with them afterwards, mostly to listen to their frustrations. And Representative Brittany Pedersen agreed, especially in this moment when there seems to be a growing, movement against ICE enforcement actions. She and other Democrats are careful not to downplay voters' anger.
People are terrified with what's happening, and we need to make sure that we are still present and that we don't let a small group of people hinder our ability to be there to support our constituents.
And the ability to be there sounds like it means taking some risks. You've reported, Caitlin, that indeed threats against Congress members are way up.
Yeah, up more than 50% last year compared to 2024. The U.S. Capitol Police said in 2025 it investigated nearly 15,000 concerning statements, behaviors, or communications directed at members of Congress, their families, and staff. And this is also costing taxpayers more money because, Congress members are needing increased security when they're back in their districts, just doing their job.
How does this get fixed? What do lawmakers say about how to reduce the vitriol and the threats?
Bazi, I think that's a tough question to answer. I don't think anyone knows how to solve the problem. Both Republicans and Democrats have pointed fingers at the other side for rhetoric that incites violence, while also saying that everyone needs to take it down a notch. Republicans have said Democrats are inflaming tensions by calling Trump a fascist and an authoritarian, while Democrats say Trump is the instigator. DeGette pointed to his ongoing targeting of Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar and drew a direct connection to what occurred this week at one of her town halls.
Ilhan Omar was rushed by a man who looked to be 2 or 3 times her size and sprayed with an unknown substance. And then hours later, President Trump was doubling down on attacking her.
Unfortunately, as we've seen over the years, the anger, the frustration, the protests seem to be infecting all levels of politics, from the federal government to the local school board meetings.
A concerning trend. CPR's Caitlin Kim in Washington, D.C. Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you, Bazi.
Sadly, Colorado's seen its second fatal crash this winter involving a traveling youth sports team. Thursday morning, a snowplow driver headed west on I-70 toward the Eisenhower Tunnel lost control and crashed through the median. The plow struck a van carrying a girls' hockey team from California on their way to a tournament in Littleton. The van's driver, a parent with the team, was killed, and multiple passengers were taken to the hospital, with one in critical condition. The plow driver was not injured. This crash follows one in early December in Lakewood, when a speeding driver collided with a school bus carrying a Grand Junction High School wrestling team. In that incident, a passenger in the speeding vehicle died, and numerous passengers in the bus were injured. The driver of that incident has been charged with vehicular homicide and other crimes. And now an update to a story you heard on the podcast earlier this week. State prisons have been running at or near capacity for months, but Democrats on the Budget Committee refused to give the Department of Corrections money for more beds because they said DOC needs a long-term plan. Well, the committee just reversed course.
Are there any objections? That passes on a vote of 5-1 with Amable objecting.
At Wednesday's joint Budget Committee meeting, 3 Democratic lawmakers, including State Representative Emily Sirota, changed their positions and approved roughly 800 new prison beds.
If we don't approve these beds, it's going to cost us more money that we don't have.
The funding stalemate lasted less than a week. CPR's Benta Birkeland said Democrats were always likely to fund additional beds, and that the original rejection
was the Democrats on the committee really trying to send a message to Governor Polis's administration that they were not happy.
Democratic lawmakers want the DOC to beef up prison staffing and find ways to release more nonviolent criminals who are eligible for parole. 2 situations that they say have led to overcrowding.
They feel that the Polis administration hasn't come up with a systemic plan to reduce the inmate population and has rejected Democratic policy proposals. So not funding them, they explicitly said this is a way to bring the Polis administration to the table.
So what if students actually had a say in who gets to teach them? That's exactly what a group of teens at North Glen High School were asked. 3/4 of students in the school district are Latino, but the teachers, they're mostly white. So teacher Ashley Durham asked her Spanish class to consider whether a teacher's race or background actually matters.
As a white teacher, I hope that I'm able to vibe with you as well. But there is something about having a teacher that looks like you, that just understands you a little bit better.
North Glen High uses a problem-based learning model. That means that students team up to tackle real-world issues, weigh in on solutions, and present their ideas to professionals. Some students concluded that race, it wasn't a big factor. They just wanted someone that they could connect with. Others, like Giselle, saw it differently.
I have only had like 2 or 3 that are my same race, but I think they've always understood where I'm coming from because they also have that same background that I came from. We get a better teacher-student relationship that way.
Research suggests that relationship, it can have a big impact. Students tend to do better in math and reading when they have a teacher who shares their racial or ethnic background. And Black students who had at least one Black teacher in grades K through 3, they were more likely to graduate high school and go to college. The students talked about how they felt seen by teachers of color and that they had a better understanding of what they could achieve. Here are students Yadira and AJ.
And it makes you feel like you're less alone.
I wanted to do more to prove that I could be the best of myself and prove that I can do things because they did what they wanted to do.
The next question for these problem-solving students is the big one. If having teachers of color matters, how can systems change to encourage more of them? North Glen's demographic mismatch between students and teachers is in line with the state and the country. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, across the country, more than half of all K-12 students are students of color, but most of their teachers aren't. In Colorado, 85% of the state's teachers are white. And students zeroed in on a big hurdle: cost. As student Alexander put it,
a lot of the reasons why people don't go to college is because it's too expensive out of their budget. So
there are suggestions: help cover tuition, offer internships, and promote programs like public service loan forgiveness. Here's Alexander one more time.
If we can reach out to people and let them know that after around 10 years of teaching, their student loan debts are completely forgiven, then I think it will help a lot of people become more interested in teaching.
But the class also identified an even more basic barrier. A lot of students had no idea how to become a teacher in the first place. They called for more visibility on social media, in the classroom, and at community events to show why it matters when students see themselves in their teachers. Giselle again.
That honestly made me want to become a teacher so that I can play that part.
Today's show was quite the team effort. Reporting came from CPR's Jenny Bernardine, Tony Gorman, and Alejandro Alonso Galva, plus Denverite's Andrew Kenny. You can support this effort by following Colorado Today in your podcast app and leaving us a review. I'm Arlo Perez Esquivel. This is CPR News.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Safeway, where you can shop online and get easy delivery or free pickup. Get the same prices, deals, and rewards as in-store. Shop the weekly ad, clip deals, and earn points at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app.
Support for Colorado Today comes from Credit Union of Colorado. With access to over 30,000 ATMs and a mobile app, they're dedicated to offering the services of a big bank with a heart. Learn more at honestlygood.org.